This past weekend, Kowloon 9 with Sumobato went down in Japan, a combination of the two iconic tournament series from Japan. With just under 900 entrants, this tournament marks the second Japanese super major to take place within the first few weeks of 2024. Oh, and speaking of majors versus super majors, all of the tournaments that we've been talking about lately have finally been properly ranked by LumiRank. For reference, Luminosity Makes Big Moves 2024 was ranked as an S+ tier event, and Umebura SP10 was ranked as a P tier event, setting it above LMBM as the very first premier tournament of the year. Today's subject, Kowloon 9 with Sumobato, matched LMBM, coming in as an S+ tier tournament, a super major. With Japan having two tournaments that were at least super majors taking place back to back, and with most of these same international invaders from Sumobato still kicking around in Japan, Kowloon 9 turned out to be an insanely stacked tournament. Today we'll be doing a top 8 recap of Kowloon 9 with Sumobato, and it'll be pretty different from my other top 8 recaps. I would explain it to you, but you'll just see as we get into it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and do that now. Just a reminder before we begin that if you want to support me monetarily, you can do so by using the links to my Patreon or channel memberships in the description below. With that out of the way, let's get started. Japan is the strongest region of Smash Ultimate in the world. That statement has been simultaneously fairly accepted and fairly controversial, at least over on Twitter. Many people are quick to claim Japan bias, especially when it comes to something like LumiRank, ShoeStats, or my very own short series ranking the best player of every character. But over these last few weeks, Japan has proven that they are indeed the best in the entire world. That's because, of the two super majors to take place, an international invader only made top 8 once, that being Gluttony's third place finish at Umebura SP10. As for Kowloon 9, well, not even Gluto was able to breach the top 8 this time. And don't worry, we'll get there. A notable exception to this trend was the impromptu invitational Cafeteria Cup, which I will be covering later this week. But that tournament was only ranked as a B+ tier, aka a national. When it comes to actual majors, Japan's batting average against the rest of the world is insane. Stay tuned later this week for a dedicated video going over every notable invader and how Japan successfully defended themselves versus the world. But with so many international invaders dealt with, that left the winner of Kowloon 9 somewhat predictable. Mia, the Game & Watch prodigy and first seed, took home the gold. With Akola, who defeated Mia at Umebura, absent, it became very nearly a sweep. But Mia did have some close calls. After sweeping his round 1 pools flawlessly, Mia had a close game 5 set with Susu, having to reverse 3-0 him. Susu is a French Steve main and is perhaps the only French player who had a really good run at this tournament. But Mia was able to clutch the set, moving on and having a fairly easy rest of bracket, defeating Steve and Kazuya player Rocky 3-0 and Gact 3-1, further extending Mia's phenomenal record against the best Ness in the world. Top 8 wouldn't prove any harder, with Mia defeating Yara in semis 3-0 and Rrun in winners finals just as easily, moving into grands where Mia did actually go game 5 with Rrun but clutched it out in the end to take yet another major win for one of the best players in the world. Astute observers may have just thought to themselves, wait, what the heck is Rrun doing in grands? Well, yes, the biggest storyline from Kowloon number 9 was Rrun. I mentioned my shorts series earlier in this video, where I make shorts about the best player of every character in Smash. Well, when I did my Luigi episode, I listed Rrun over Luigi as the best Luigi in the world, much to the anger of nearly every commenter. But it seems as though I have the last laugh in this case, as Rrun's run here at Kowloon 9 was the stuff of legends. Rrun, as the 30th seed, managed to make a run all the way to second place. Rrun, much like Mia, swept his round 1 without dropping a game. In round 2, Rrun would get his first pair of really good wins, defeating Netoru 3-0 and insanely Yoshidora 3-1 to make top 32 from winner's side. Yoshidora, by the way, would lose his very next set to Toriguri, the world's best banjo, for a 33rd place finish. Unfortunately, of these sets, only the Netoru one was streamed. But once Rrun moved into top 32, he defeated Mario main Snow in a battle of the Italian brothers, which ended up going down to a close game 5. After this, Rrun was finally put on stream in winners quarters, where Rrun defeated Omowatsu the Minm 3-1. And I know what you're thinking. Rrun won Luigi Minm? Well, guess what? We're not even done. That's because Rrun moved up into top 8 and defeated Doramigi in winners semifinals in a 3-0. Not only did Rrun defeat one of the best solo Minmins in the world, he defeated both of them with only one game dropped. This is not a case of Minmin mains being bad, nor is it a case of the matchup being secretly even. For those of you who don't know, Rrun is pretty famous in the Japanese scene for being really, really good against Minmin, especially online, where Rrun is nearly undefeated versus the Noodle Girl. Pair this with Luigi a few months ago defeating both Quick and Siski at the same tournament, and it's led some to, jokingly or not, suggest that Luigi doesn't lose any matchups. And you know what? All of you who judged me for putting Luigi so high on my tier list, it seems like I got the last laugh yet again. Anyways, a loss to Miya in winners finals, a victory versus Asimo in losers finals, and a heartbreaking Game 5 loss to Miya in grands sealed Rrun's fate at second place as the 30th seed, one of Rrun's and indeed Luigi's best placements ever in Modern Ultimate. Coming in at third place, we have Asimo, who you're probably not surprised to see here in top 3, despite being the 9th seed. But it's not the final placement itself that matters, rather how Asimo got there. Having made it to top 32 with wins over Leaf and Void, Asimo would lose in a close Game 5 set to Gact, almost reverse 3-0ing, but not quite, dropping into losers. From here, Asimo went on one of the best losers runs of the entire tournament, first defeating Toriguri, fresh off a win on Yoshidora, before defeating not one, but both of Japan's top Sonic players in Taikei and Ken, both in 3-1 victories to make top 8 through losers. Once here, Asimo defeated Omawatsu and Yara, both in 3-0s, and lastly Hurt 3-1, before making it all the way to losers finals and falling to Rrun 3-1 for a final placement of 3rd, a phenomenal finish. And the last notable thing about this top 8 is the fact that there were not one, but two Minmins, those players being Omawatsu and Doramigi. And by the way, this is coming off of Doramigi's top 8 finish at Umebura SP10 and Justice's run at LMBM. It's been an amazing year for Minmin so far, and if you hate Minmin, that's really bad news. Me, however, I love Minmin, so that's been great news. Omawatsu had been returning to Smash after a long hiatus and needed a few tournaments to warm back up, but fully returned here at Kowloon 9, placing 7th as the 43rd seed, the lowest to make top 8. In Phase 1 pools, Omawatsu had to clutch out a Game 5 set versus Palutename and Crete, but won in the end. Moving on from that, Omawatsu made top 32 easily, only dropping one game to Mado. Once here, Omawatsu defeated Hurt in a Game 5 set, nearly being reverse 3-0'd by Hurt's Greninja, but preventing it at the last moment. Of course, like we discussed earlier, Omawatsu lost in winners quarters to Rrun, but went into losers and defeated Neo in a phenomenal 3-1 upset, making it into top 8, where Omawatsu would sadly lose to a white-hot Asimo in a 3-0 for a final placement of 7th. Doramigi is the best solo Minmin in the world, and this placement is 2 back-to-back top 8s at Super Majors for the young prodigy. Coming into the event as the 15th seed, Doramigi made it out of pools with only one game dropped to the French Rosalina main Homika. Afterward, Doramigi defeated Pichu main Yonepi as well as Shoto main Munikin to make it into top 32, winner's side, for a match versus Gluttony. This is coming just 1 week after their meeting at Umebura SP10, where Gluto reverse 3-0'd Doramigi. However, this time, Gluto wouldn't be so fortunate, with Doramigi defeating Gluto in a close Game 5 set, sending the French Wario down into losers. And yes, if you hadn't heard, Gluttony would lose his very next set to Steve main Carmelo to place 17th as the 2nd seed of the entire event. And if you think you're upset about this, then you clearly haven't seen what the French Dimension thought. Let me tell you, they were livid. Anyways, Doramigi then defeated Ken 3-1 to make it into top 8 through winner's side, before unfortunately losing back-to-back sets to Rrun 3-0 and Hurt in a close Game 5 set to finish at 5th place. Stay tuned for later down the road, either this week or next week, where I might make a video strictly about these two Minmin players. But for now, we've got this video to wrap up. Rounding out our top 8 is Hurt, the number 6 seed who got 4th, Yara, the 5th seed who got 5th, and lastly Gact, who placed 7th as the 25th seed. The most notable of these three is Gact, who got an insane Game 5 upset win over Asimo, but would lose to Miya 3-1 just before top 8. In losers, Gact would defeat Carmelo, hot off of upsetting Gluttony, to make it into top 8 losers side, where Gact would lose to Hurt in a close game 5 set for 7th. This is a good placement for Gact after a string of somewhat disappointing ones, with some people on Twitter even comparing Gact to Cosmos. But I happen to like Cosmos, and I happen to like Gact, so seeing this good placement from him really makes me happy. Yara made top 8 through winners, getting a great Game 5 win over Neo before getting yet another insane win over Zomba 3-1 to enter top 8 from winners. However, Yara would unfortunately lose back-to-back sets, first to Mia and then to a white-hot Asimo, both in 3-0 losses, to match his seed of 5th. And lastly, we have Hurt, who went on an impressive losers run after losing to Omawatsu in the first round of top 32, like we discussed earlier. Hurt defeated Kananabe 3-0 and Zomba 3-1 to make it into top 8, where Hurt then beat Gact and Doramigi in Game 5 sets, overcoming 2 matchups that are seen as terrible for Snake. However, nothing could stop Ashimo's fury through losers bracket, and Hurt was eliminated in losers semifinals 3-1 for a final placement of 4th. And that wraps up my top 8 recap of Kowloon 9 with Sumobato. In case you hadn't noticed, this video was extremely different from normal. That's because I've been receiving a lot of feedback about my normal format, and I'm trying new things in order to adjust to this feedback. In the comments below, please tell me if you like this type of video more so than my usual format. If you do, then I'll make more just like it. But for now, that's going to be it for today's video. Before I go, shout out goes to my patrons Seth Laster, Frosco333, Logan S, Percy Palm, and my tier 2 patrons Iltis and Diamond Blaze. Additionally, shout out my YouTube members Stormtrooper, Locosoko, Diarrhea, DHR Jr., Defective, Orangabang, Fanoff, Boston R, Iltis, and my tier 2 members Mike G and Wu-Tang Forever. Lastly, extra special thanks to my tier 3 patron Ocean Man, who says Mr. Mice is sorry for playing Minm. If you want to support me using any of these methods, links are in the description below. Tomorrow is my birthday, so I have no idea what I'm gonna upload, probably something easy, but there will be an upload tomorrow. Until then, however, I've been Mr. Mice, and thank you all so very much for watching.